Good morning. Before we begin with the homily, I just want to mention that this morning, this weekend, coming days, our thoughts and prayers, well wishes, everything good for the families dealing with the Texas flooding, the tragedy happening there. We're very much thinking of them. Aside from that, I certainly hope that you are having a great Independence Day weekend. Speaking of which, it was 249 years ago, Friday, on July 4th, 1776, when 56 of the nation's founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence that marked the birth of the United States. The document went on to list the many grievances the colonies had against King George III and the British government, specifying their reasons for breaking free to form a new and independent nation. But before going over those details in the Declaration, Thomas Jefferson, the document's primary author, wrote the new nation's foundational principles with these famous words that I'm sure you've heard before. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now, the U.S. Constitution that followed and the many federal, state, and local laws that are supposed to align with the Constitution are supposed to reflect that preamble of equality under the law and the upholding of rights endowed by God. History and current events show that our country doesn't always measure up to this simple but lofty standard. Nevertheless, the truths that the Founding Fathers professed to be self-evident laid the foundation of an American dream that has inspired our citizens and the world for nearly 250 years. I mention this because there is a parallel, that I found anyway, between the Declaration of Independence and the commands that Jesus declared for all who follow him. Now, I am not one to mix religion and politics, far from it. But I mention the parallel because, like the Declaration's preamble, Jesus gave two succinct commandments from which all Christian doctrines and church canons flow. As we prayed in today's collect a short time ago, O God, you have taught us to keep all your commandments by loving you and our neighbor. Love God and love our neighbor, who is everyone. All the lessons that Jesus taught on his time in earth and all the admonition of the New Testament and the church canons and doctrines that align with Jesus' teachings are specific laws and lessons, a list of details, if you will, that all point back to loving God with our heart, soul, and mind, and doing likewise for other people. Also, like the Declaration of Independence, Jesus' two great commandments are nothing new at all for us. In fact, they're something that we're quite familiar with. But neither are questions, in terms of being something new, that often accompany those commandments, such as, what does loving God and our neighbor actually mean? And how do we do this? You know, there are many ways for us to draw closer to God and in helping others do so, along with saying and doing things to help and uplift other people. Although today's first reading from the second book of Kings predates Jesus' time on earth by a few hundred years, it does pack several examples of loving God and neighbor that we in our day can learn from. It's the story of a great army commander named Naaman who suffers from leprosy, and of the events and encounters that led to his healing. Now, after the account introduces us to Naaman and tells us who he is, It then mentions a young Israelite girl who was taken captive during one of Naaman's army's raids. Now, this girl could very well have been angry about what happened, resentful, and want nothing to do with helping someone who invaded her homeland and took her and others captive. Yet, it was she who intentionally started the chain of events to Naaman's healing when she told his wife about a powerful prophet who could cure the man. This was a simple yet powerful expression of both love of neighbor in her thoughtful compassion for Naaman and his condition, and of God by drawing attention to his love and power through his prophet. Now, the neighbors that we are to love include strangers we may not know, and even people that we may have reason not to like very much. But whenever possible, we are still to be helpful, patient, and compassionate. We are to be kind. Who knows? We may gain a friend or at least start to thaw a chilly relationship with a kind word or action that also tacitly brings honor to God. I will come back to another example of love for neighbor later in this story. But first, let's visit the prophet Elisha's love of God. He manifests this in his unshakable faith and trust in God, first with the king of Israel and later with Naaman himself. Now, Israel's king was really nervous, so much so that he tore his clothes in anguish when he learned that the great Aramean army commander was coming to see him. But Elisha, in effect, told the king, "Don't worry about it. Send him to me, and he will see there is a powerful prophet and God in our land of Israel." Later, when Naaman arrived with lots of horses and chariots basically to his doorstep to see the prophet, Elisha could have easily thought, uh-oh, and gotten intimidated by all that military might. But he was not, and he did not. Instead, Elisha sent a messenger to Naaman with instructions on how to get clean. Wash in the Jordan River 7 times and you'll be good. Now, the power to heal came, of course, not from Elisha, but from God himself. And the prophet was bold in his love and faith and trust in God. Trusting in God gives us power as well to carry on, especially when we are feeling unsure or overwhelmed, which happens to us all. And this, in turn, deepens our love and appreciation for the Almighty. Now, finally, one of many ways to show love of neighbor can come down to simply doing our duty. Again, even when it may seem difficult. When told to bathe in the Jordan River, Naaman left in a huff. And you can imagine that he would be the type of person who you would not want to make angry or be around him when he's in a mood. Yet, his servant stepped in and served Naaman well by reasoning with him to calm him down and give him the excellent advice to heed Elisha's instructions. And Naaman was in fact made clean, reflecting on what we also read today in Psalm 30, verse 2. "O Lord my God, I cried out to you, and you restored me to health." As we know, it is not always easy for imperfect humans to perfectly follow Jesus' 2 commandments, to love God and love your neighbor. Similar to the challenge of this or any other country to establish a more perfect union, as our Constitution sets out to do. But with love, we can try. We can be strong, and we can help. As Paul wrote to the Galatians, we can bear one another's burdens, and in this way, we will fulfill the law of Christ. Amen.